The general atmosphere is very Macbethish. What has or is about to happen?
What is he talking about?
Macbeth.
We know you. We've seen you like this before. Is it over or is it just beginning? Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Listening to the Liquid Flannel podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Chuck Williams. Joining me in Nebraska is Brendan Williams. Brendan, how you doing, man?
Just trying to keep up. Every week, I think it can't get crazier. And every week,
I think that's been your intro phrase for like 10 episodes or something.
It's the catchphrase. We're going to put it on a t-shirt.
Exactly.
Every week, I don't think it can get crazier, and it just keeps getting crazier.
Well,
and speaking of crazy, the weather's getting wild in the south, and joining us in Arlington, Texas, as usual, is the great Matthew Hodges. Matt, how you doing, man?
Oh, we're doing fine. You know, it sprinkled a little bit today. I haven't seen a whole lot of wind, but then I'm in, the DFW area, so I don't think this hurricane's going to hit us super hard here. I mean, if it does, then, I think people who deny climate change are going to have to revisit their models a little bit.
Well, sure. But if you want to do some real citizen journalism, you might need to get those water wings on. Take a little drive down to Galveston, right? So, well, happy 50th, everybody.
50th episode.
That's right. The big 5-0. I'm feeling pretty old. Almost half a century.
Yeah, we've been doing this for 50 years,
It
right?
feels like it. It feels like we've been doing this for a long time.
In Trump years, it's 50 years.
I know Brendan's hair has gone almost completely white at this point.
Seriously.
Yeah, I had hair when we started this podcast. It was a long time ago.
I think the first section of the episode here is just us trying to cover all the Trump news we can, which is a lot. A lot of Trump news.
I mean, it's like we get together every week and we're like, man, what happened this week?
Yeah.
And then we talk for, you just can't. You're like, oh my God, this happened and this happened and this happened.
It's just an avalanche of topics every single week. Yeah. You can't get to all of it.
Absolutely.
So we talk Trump news, and then we also talk a little bit about this movement of people trying to kind of publicize and expose people who are at these white supremacist Nazi rallies and leak their information online and try to get them fired, basically.
Right. Absolutely. We talk about that, and that kind of brings us into the more regional aspect of the show in the second portion of the show. And that's definitely something that I encountered over the weekend this week up in Nebraska. And Matt, you had some local news as well that we get into, right?
Yeah, totally. There's a lot going on with voting rights and voter suppression in Texas, and that's right in our wheelhouse to talk about. So it's going to be good to discuss that a little bit. And then we've got a whole mix of high notes, I think. We've got a couple of stories that kind of stuck out to us as being kind of positive and interesting this week, and then we've got a special treat, some old voices from the show to pop on and talk about our 50th episode.
So I can't wait.
That's right. Well, we don't have to wait any longer because it's starting right now.
Yeah, it's been quite a controversial last 24 hours for this White House. Everything from the president following through on that plan to ban transgender service members from the military to pardoning Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who's become a lightning rod in the debate over immigration in this country. He's been accused of racial profiling and discrimination. The president issuing that pardon, but already receiving a lot of pushback for taking these steps, as much of the nation, much of the media, of course, is consumed by focusing on this hurricane. Even Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer accusing the president of using the hurricane as cover.
So yeah, it'll be exciting for people in like Houston and Galveston as this storm comes through. I mean, they've been saying for a while that what Donald Trump hasn't had to deal with yet is an actual test of his executive capabilities in an emergency. And yeah, we're in hurricane season now. We got a big ass storm rolling in.
So his executive capabilities are, can I make it so that no Mexicans get any relief during this? It's like,
Right.
can I just give aid to the people that can prove they're white?
Yeah, they're just gonna all of the emergency blankets that they hand out will be the electoral college map printed on one of those like NASA space blankets.
I think he's going to just say, like, look, if we build the wall and then we just keep it going on the ocean, like that, it will protect us. Like,
Right.
we need to build the wall.
Just build it higher, and the wall just got 10 kilometers higher.
Take that, hurricanes.
Are you using the metric system?
Oh yeah, no, that gives him way too much credit.
Matt,
good
I'm
point.
sorry, I've got to report you now. You're getting a little bit too cosmopolitan with your measurements.
Your measurement.
This is my cosmopolitan science bias.
That's right.
I'm surprised Trump hasn't like done the thing that like old English kings used to do, where he's like, a foot is now how big my actual foot is. Like, it's a Trump foot. We're switching everything over to Trump furlongs. It's the new measurement system in America.
Everyone.
Trump furlong sounds like an Urban Dictionary like fictional sex act.
I don't want to think about it.
Nope.
Should we talk about how Trump said he was going to shut the government down if he didn't get the wall paid for or whatever?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
I actually laughed out loud in my car when he said that.
Well, why isn't he shutting down Mexico's government? I thought they were the ones that were supposed to come up with this payment plan.
I'm sure he's confused as to why he isn't capable of doing that.
Shut that down.
Yeah, well,
Don't
once we
up.
shut our government down, Mexico, they're next to get shut down because of the repercussions. So he's playing the long game, man. You forget that he's playing the 8th dimensional Parcheesi or whatever.
That's right. 8th dimensional Pokemon. So
I would play the shit out of that game, by the way.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
He's totally going off the deep end, feuding with Mitch McConnell over Twitter, just about nothing, just still about healthcare. It's like, just let it go, man. Like, you're not doing yourself any favors when you need to pass this bill. Like, I mean, do you think Trump is under the impression that if he shuts the government down, that people will like that? Like, does he think this is a winning issue for him to be like, I'm going to shut the government down over just whatever, over anything, over the wall, over, whatever I feel like?
Well, yeah, I think he does, because he gets that, that packet, that briefing every day about how much people love him and all of the positive press coverage. I think that he's actually in
that guy quit
this little echo chamber now where he thinks that most people are really approving of the job that he's doing, and that, all of the, basically the only people who disagree with him work at CNN and the New York Times. And that's just not true. I mean, the 538 article that came out about his approval ratings had some pretty stark lessons that are never going to make it to his desk. But yeah, shutting the government down is never a popular move. Nobody wants that to happen. All sorts of agencies that people rely on close down, and they can't access their government health insurance. They can't visit their fucking federal park.
Here's what I was gonna say. This dude resigned recently. His official title was the White House Rapid Response Director.
That's what it was. Okay.
And apparently his job was to spot, encourage, and distribute positive stories about Trump.
Wow.
And he's making like $90,000 a year to just share positive Trump news from the White House as an official position. And he's like, I can't do it anymore. I just can't. Dude, I have to give up.
For $90,000 a year?
I would absolutely do that job for $90,000 a year, but I would try to slip in the occasional article from like The Onion just to see if he noticed.
I bet this dude was getting like the most personal scrutiny of his job performance from President Trump versus anyone in the entire administration. I mean, he was looking at his work output on like a minute by minute basis almost, right. I'm sure.
Well, yeah, because he needed that briefing before animal crackers and nap time in the afternoon.
Yeah. I mean, $90,000, like that's not a terrible job, but you'd have to pay me way more than that to do that job.
Well, $90,000 living in D.C.
Oh,
isn't,
absolutely.
that doesn't go
Yeah, I mean, if
far.
he's living in, like, Oklahoma or Wyoming or whatever, like, yeah, that's great.
Dude, you're balling
but, like,
out of control with that. You know?
But yeah, in the largest metro area, in the country, in the eastern megalopolis, that's not going as far as you might think here in the plains.
I mean, back to the wall real quick. It's always about the wall. Huckabee Sanders today in a press conference, one of the reporters was like, well, he campaigned on Mexico paying for it, and now he's threatening to shut the government down to make them pay for it. What's the deal there? And she's like, well, he's just that intent on the safety and security of this country, and we've seen down there that the wall works. It's like, okay, if you've seen that the wall works, then you probably don't need a wall because there has to already be an existing wall there.
Or also, like,
or you're lying.
I care so much about the safety and security of America
That I will shut the
I'll
government
shut
down.
This whole thing down. I
Yeah.
will fire everybody who works for security and, all that. Like,
Yep.
just go home for a while, guys. Like,
Yep.
it's just too unsafe in here for you guys to be around.
Well, speaking of security, isn't it the Secret Service is about to run out of money? Watch for Trump detail.
Yeah, I think they've blown through all of their funding at this point. All of their funding for the fiscal year, because they're literally having to rent like golf carts every
Right.
weekend that go straight back into the Trump organization.
He gets rich off of it. It's not brilliant because it's not like nobody's ever thought of doing that before. Everyone just realized that you can't do that, and you normally get in trouble for it.
Right. I
So-
mean, it technically is illegal, I think, for him to be doing it. Now, I guess you have to take the emoluments clause to court or something. Or, I mean, I guess the emoluments clause is only for, like, foreign...
Yeah, that's all about foreign governments and stuff. There is a federal statute against exactly that kind of conflict of interest. It just doesn't apply to the president. And that was never a problem before because we always elected people who at least had the good sense to know that it was bad optics to be personally enriching yourself while you're in the office, but he doesn't care.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it is just so absolutely crazy that at the same time that he'll be like, we need money for this wall. The budget's out of control. Like, we need tax reform. We need to beef up spending on the military and all that. But also, hey, what's a couple $100,000 back into my own pocket for golf cart rental fees?
Right.
Mar-a-Lago parking,
Right.
Trump Tower, Secret Service room rentals. Why not?
And everyone's like, that man is doing this job and not taking a penny. He's not accepting any money because he's that much of a patriot. And then it's like, all this money is coming
Right.
in.
Oh, dude,
into
he
his
has to be
business.
making way more than he would ever make in his salary as president.
Oh, yeah.
He's making way more in profits from his resorts and his hotels. The Trump Hotel that's like literally like across the block from the White House.
Sure.
Every Trump official stays there. Every foreign person that comes to visit him stays there. They did that study where they showed they like tripled their rates like after the inauguration.
Man.
Right.
And they're like, well, hey, it's just because it's busy
Right.
now, it's like
This is the peak season for the next 4 years.
right. It all just comes down to like, hey, that's what the free market, will dictate. So when the government is paying for it,
What I love is that all of this talk about, divestment and stuff was going on before he was even inaugurated. And nobody ever talks about that now. It's just like, nope, that's not going to happen. It's just outrage upon outrage every time you pile on one of these stories about, the Trump administration is literally charging ambassadors for like mints on their pillows that are Trump branded, and like, well, that's just the new normal. That's just Trump's America. That's the art of the deal, baby.
right. Well, but except when Obama took an overseas trip, go give some speech in the Philippines or something like that, and
Right.
took some Secret Service people with him, they were like, this is outrageous. Like,
Yeah.
how low can one man stoop that he's just wasting our tax dollars?
Yeah.
The nerve of this.
Intoxicated with power, you get a taste and it goes straight to your head. Well, and what else this week? It looks like we're inching closer to a hashtag Free Arpaio. the heavy possibility of him being pardoned.
I mean, that whole Arizona rally, he went up there, he ranted for like over 70 minutes, and he said at one point, I was gonna pardon Arpaio, but they told me it'd be too controversial.
Yeah,
so
I
I'm
won't
not gonna
mention
do
his
it
name.
today."
I won't mention his name because I'm trying not to be controversial, okay?
Right.
You know.
But you know what? I think he's gonna be just fine. Wink, 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 wink.
Dude, I
Right.
listened to clips of that speech, if you can call it that, and it's just like the unhinged rantings of, you know.
Yeah, it's just Fox News grandpa. I mean, we all have a relative like that. He sounded exactly the same. He just has a massive platform to do it. You know, he did name drop one person, though, specifically, try to get General Kelly to come on the stage with him. And then Kelly either, like, didn't do it or wasn't even there.
He's doing like the,
Yeah.
the mic.
Yeah, he's giving him the, like the neck chopping motion off stage.
Oh, no.
Please stop. Yeah, I mean, he went all out. He was attacking everybody. I mean, the lies that he's telling at his rallies are getting at once more outrageous, but also just more easily disproven. Like, he was like, CNN won't even show this. Like, wow,
Yeah,
it's being
they've cut
broadcast
their
on
broadcast
CNN.
feed.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's like, CNN won't even show the crowds. Like, wow, they're doing a giant panning shot
Right.
of the crowd. It's absolutely nuts that he would just lie. And he doesn't even care. Like, he tweeted, like, there was 15,000 people there.
Including this black guy behind me,
Right.
who happens to be like from a cult or whatever
dude.
that believes that Cherokee Indians
What is his website? It's like
are starting a race war.
gods2.com or whatever.
I don't know.
Don't go there because you'll get like 30 viruses or whatever. But
Seriously, put a condom on your mouse.
I mean,
on your hard drive.
it is pretty smart, Chuck. I think you should start just going to every Trump rally and just hold like a giant liquid flannel sign.
Liquid
behind it.
flannels for Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the attention we want. I liked all the MAGA hats reposting pictures of like, look, the lines around the block. People are pointing out that like things say like Cleveland Lock and Key.
Right.
They were posting like pictures of the Cavaliers championship
After they won
party.
the championship.
Right. Literally everyone's wearing like Cavs jerseys. They're like orange and yellow in the photo everywhere. But it doesn't matter because the Trump fans will just eat it up anyway.
All these folks from Arizona are saying like, yeah, we don't have that kind of tree in Phoenix. Like that kind of tree just doesn't even grow here. How does
kind of a
anyone believe
different-
this?
Different climate.
Right.
When you have to post pictures of Cleveland to be like, hey, look how great we're doing. It's Cleveland. That's not a good place to be in.
But this is straight out of the playbook. I mean, it's just like them doctoring up photos of like Antifa beating up police when it was like in Greece, like
Right.
years ago.
Yeah, sure.
And they're like, dude, this is Antifa, in Burbank, California.
Right. They just, badly Photoshop like an Antifa flag or on the back of his jacket.
Right.
Like they're like a gang from like Greece or like
Greece
West Side Story or whatever.
The
like,
Warriors or
yeah.
whatever.
They just all have their Antifa leather jackets. Like, oh, welcome to the Antifa crew, bro. We're racing for
Right.
pinks.
Well, that's like they were circulating this fake Antifa like handbook that was such a ridiculous. I almost want to believe that it was made up by some leftist and then circulated to right wingers to trick them, not the like mock up that the right wingers made to circulate to convince centrists, because it was so bad. It was so on the nose. Talking about how like, what we're all about is recommissioning storage containers to bring over as many immigrants and refugees as possible. The ones that we can't find a job where they can replace like a white cis male, we'll just give them an endless supply of federally funded like opioids and marijuana to keep them voting for us.
Oh, yeah.
Was that the fake one where they were like, we're Antifa. One of our stated goals is to just murder white children
Yep.
as much as we can. It's like,
Wow.
like really? Like, I don't think anyone's buying that one, but I
Yeah.
guess Trump fans will. I mean, they'll buy anything.
Yeah.
They'll buy Trump's BS, so why not?
I was going to say, even on the local Antifa scene, they had tweets going out saying, guys, don't go to this Antifa Facebook page. This is totally fake. They're trying to get information from people.
Yeah, they've got one on Twitter too. But I'll tell you what Trump fans won't buy. It's what Trump won't sell. To kind of tie all this up, he can go to Phoenix and rant for 70 minutes about just the most ridiculous, inane, made-up bullshit. But when it came time to get voters, on board with the Republican healthcare plan, he was nowhere to be found. He was hedging his bets. When Obama was trying to pass the ACA, he was out there doing town halls. He was making appearances, selling the idea, and Trump won't do that.
Well, right. And they're saying like, well, healthcare's done for now. So it's all about tax reform. We love tax reform. We should have done tax reform first anyway, because it's so much easier and so much better. And then you go to Trump and say like, Trump, what's the status of your tax proposal? And he's like, oh, I don't think I'll really do one. Like, I'll just let them kind of figure that out,
Y'all decide
on their own. The decisive leadership that his voters, elected.
That leading,
just saying like, well, whatever Paul Ryan wants.
Yeah, it'll be exactly the same thing with tax reform. They'll float some plan and it'll look possibly unpopular. I mean, I'm not gonna go out there too far and say that a Republican like Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell led tax reform plan is gonna read poorly with regular people, but it'll get a little pushback, and he'll just stay in the White House. He's not going to go out and try to sell that.
Even if that was his strategy, which is like, look, I'm going to take a back seat to this one and just let Congress and the Senate work it out. I think that's for the best.
Right.
Then don't go on Twitter and say, I hate Congress and the Senate for failing so hard.
And I have zero confidence in my man, Mitch McConnell, who I'm sure is going to do a great job here and get what everybody wants. Like, it's like, come on, give me a break.
It's absolutely crazy because it's clear that he's not planning or thinking about anything other than just whatever he feels like spouting off about at that very second. And we're seeing now that strategy, it comes back to bite you in the ass when you need to work with these people. You need to work with Congress to get things done. You need to work with members of your own administration to get things done. And he can't even pretend to have a good working relationship with them, where they're saying like he hasn't talked to Mitch McConnell for like months at this point, but he'll go on Twitter every day and say how much he hates him, and then turn around and say, but whatever his tax plan is, like, I'm sure it'll be great.
I mean, the guy started the job thinking that the phrase political capital literally just referred to Washington, D.C.
Right. Well, I love how one of the last few times they did talk was on the phone and had this huge argument, and he was yelling at Mitch McConnell, and it was like profanity laced, and it was, partly about the failure of being able to repeal Obamacare, but also because he thought Congress wasn't doing enough to protect him from the Russia investigation. And this is being reported out by like Republican sources close to the conversation. So it seems like all the dude can focus on is Russia, which is all America can focus on too. So, I mean, it's all good.
Yeah, they said he called like 10 different senators to yell at them to like stop the Russia investigation.
Right. Yeah.
Including Mitch McConnell.
It's like, stop the presses. Turn the machines back on. It's becoming more and more unhinged every week, it seems like. We should almost have a section called, well, this was the evolution of news, and then just have it be like quick headlines for everything we missed after we record, because it just seems like in this administration, the speed of news is too fast for us amateurs. So, I don't know.
Did you see that CNN clip where the lady was like, I'm just going to run down some of the like Trump headlines from the past 2 weeks? And it was like 5 minutes long, and she was like, I need to take a drink of water.
Take a sip real quick.
And yeah, it's just like each one, like just one after the other. It's like, wow, that was crazy. Yeah. That was the craziest thing ever. Didn't think it would get crazier than that until an hour later.
She gets vocal fried just from reading like the news.
Well, that was about 20 minutes of kind of the national perspective. I wonder if we want to take a break and then come back around and do some stuff that's more in our backyard.
Yeah, no, sounds good.
It has been a chaotic 4 weeks, even by these White House standards. So let's just all take a moment, just to remind you what has happened. Incredibly significant events, one after the other. So in no particular order, President Trump fires his chief strategist, fires his chief of staff, hires a new communications director, fires him, publicly shames his attorney general multiple times, loses a health care bill, publicly shames the 3 Republicans who voted against it multiple times, bans transgender individuals from the military without telling the military, ticks off the Boy Scouts, makes up a phone call with said scouts, makes up another phone call with the president of Mexico, thanks Vladimir Putin for expelling Americans, hundreds of them, takes days to sign a bipartisan sanctions bill, and then blasts Congress for making him sign it. Hold on a second. Sorry, this is long. Encourages police officers to be rough with suspects during arrests, publicly shames the Republican leader he needs to get anything done multiple times. He threatens North Korea with nuclear war, tells Guam it'll help tourism, threatens Venezuela with a military option. After a Nazi rally in which someone was murdered, the president blames both sides. After the backlash, cleans it up, denounces those white supremacists, but then hours later erases all of it and makes everything worse by again blaming both sides, saying there were fine people there. No, they weren't. They were Nazis. Publicly shames CEOs who abandon him, then loses 2 of his entire jobs councils after execs jump ship, and gets condemnations from Democrats, Republicans, former presidents, world leaders, allies, his own staff, and the Pope. And still has no regrets.
Oh.
Well, you guys are gonna love exactly what I'm gonna say, because it's pretty ridiculous. So
I love the ridiculous.
there was a huge controversy when Teen Vogue published an article that was like how to do anal.
What?
And people, of course, like freaked out.
This is how you do it. Sorry.
But then when they did an interview with the editor in chief, he was like, "This is an important like issue for people to be educated about for it, because if they're not going to get educated from like medical professionals that we're talking to for our story about like safety, they're going to get educated from some 15-year-old kid who saw stuff on the internet and then said like, no, it's the best. Everyone loves it. You know,
it's so easy.
Yeah, and you know,
it.
Jesus said it was cool. Like, just watch this video. You know.
Yeah.
And so they're like, this is an important like health and safety issue, like to educate people about.
How long ago was that?
Oh, it was a couple months ago. It was not that long ago.
Interesting.
Yeah, people freaked out though, and it's the same crowd that gets mad if you try to suggest anything other than abstinence-only sex education.
Oh, right, exactly.
You know, which is, I mean, demonstrably a bad idea for exactly that same reason, because it's going to be like, you know, Tommy Greenwell, like in your math class, talking about like, oh yeah, I totally had like my whole forearm up inside of her, and people are going to think that's what sex looks like.
Right. Or yeah, they're just like, you know, MAGA hats on 4chan, you know, and that's where they learn everything.
Oh, dude, speaking of MAGA hats, did you hear about those teenage girls that were wearing MAGA hats at Howard University?
Oh yeah, the historically black college.
Right. And they're like, we didn't realize there were going to be so many black people there.
Well, and apparently they weren't even there on a visit. They were on some other trip, and they just stopped there to get lunch or something. But you know, that's a major failure of the chaperones on that trip. Not to say like, look, you need to be, you know, culturally sensitive.
I'm sure it was more planned or scripted.
Yo, whatever. They were probably like filming it for their YouTube channel or whatever, where they were like, watch this sick prank. We wear MAGA hats to a historically black college.
It's like Baked Alaska being a victim of Mace, but still putting it up on his Periscope, you know, still streaming it. He's like, what's my fam say?
Right.
You know,
absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, people do that all the time. Like, there was a dude who like dressed up as a Nazi and went to a Trump rally. And he was like, but I just went to show that, you know, people there were like, you shouldn't go away.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's like, so everybody's not, clearly they're not Nazis because they didn't want me to be dressed like a Nazi there.
Social
they were really,
experiment.
Social experiment.
Jeez.
Yeah. Just a prank, bro. I'm just a Nazi in a prank.
Yeah.
Where they were literally just like, hey man, like, we're Nazis, but like, we're on the down low about it. Like, you're doing it too much, you know?
Yeah, right.
You're letting the cat out of the bag here.
You know what's really sad about those MAGA hats is that, you know, you would think that it'd be worth getting one just as a collector's item, you know, because like down the road, that's going to be an important piece of history, except they're like mass produced in China. There are 1 billion of them. So it's not going to be valuable at all.
Especially if you get them from the street vendors in DC, like those are almost definitely coming from, like foreign made materials for sure.
Yeah. I could just imagine though, like 30 years from now on like Antiques Roadshow where he's like, oh, this is a first edition MAGA hat printing signed, this was a really tumultuous period in America. A lot of people ended up burning these, later on down the line.
So
quiet, there's not as many of them left.
Backyard ceremonies.
Some use these to filter their urine for drinking water.
In the dark times.
It was a real Kevin Costner age. Oh man, God bless the MAGA hat.
Oh yeah. Survival urine filter MAGA hat
for sure
on sale now.
Well, the local Antifa chapter here in Nebraska has been trying to track, or they're doing their best to try to track people's internet use in terms of looking for hate speech and stuff like
people
that,
who
and identify
and
people.
Like that.
Yep, absolutely. So, there's a guy up at University of Nebraska Lincoln that's been kind of exposed because evidently he also put no N-words allowed Trump 2020 or whatever on the dry erase marker board on his door. Well,
joke's on him because no is itself an N-word. So
right.
It's a double negative, so flip it around.
Oh, dude, opposite day. Dude, he's just doing a social experiment to see if people know the English language.
Right. I'm sure that's what he'll say when he gets called out or whatever.
Right.
Like, it was just a prank, bro. Just like he'll just rip his shirt off like the kid at the rally or whatever.
Well, and then there was a guy they were calling out from UNO that says that he's, I don't know what it is, a virilist or something, ventriloquist, whatever it is.
Wait, which one?
When you have a fascination with flags.
Oh, a vexillologist.
Vexillologist. Yes,
yeah.
dude.
No
He's
V
a
words allowed on
vexillologist.
Liquid Flannel.
So he's got like all these old school things, and he goes by Fashy Mav and stuff, on
Nice.
his Twitter.
I love the excuse of being like, dude, like, are you a Nazi? Like, what's up with all these Nazi flags or whatever? He's like, I just love flag collecting,
Dude, I love interesting flags.
Yeah.
These interest me.
It's just incidental that they happen to be racist. Like, I don't know what you're impugning, sir. Free speech. I thought this was a free country.
Well, I got a personal text this week that someone from a former job of mine was outed on there as a white nationalist, part of that Identity Europa or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
Have you heard of those guys?
I mean, they were involved in the Charlottesville March.
Oh, yeah,
as one
definitely.
of the groups participating.
Well, and the guy that founded it, he goes to school like over in California somewhere, and he was the dude that punched a girl at one of those rallies.
Look, I'm
D'Amico or something.
that guy.
Oh, that, like, dreadlock girl.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that, I mean, punching girls is not an uncommon denominator amongst these dudes.
No, of course not. Of course not.
It's called gender equality. Maybe you haven't heard of it.
Dude, I didn't realize that they were woke. Way to flip the tables
Right.
there.
It's like they're like it's the ultimate expression of feminism.
Right. Equal rights, equal lefts.
To get
that is a
punched
thing
in
that
the
they say
face.
without any kind of irony.
But yeah, so this guy joined that group, and they had these pictures of him, and then today, so I guess earlier in the week for the listeners, he got fired from that job. But also the person that reported him got fired as well. So it's crazy that these dudes are just there's people out there trying to hold them accountable, and in some ways it's happening. I don't know what to think of that yet. So but it was just really puzzling to me because this particular guy, he hung out at my house all the time. I mean, not all the time, but he had been over there several times. I mean, back in the day, he would come and smoke with me and my roommate, and my roommate is Jewish, and he had no problem with us. And
What did you do to this dude, man?
Seriously, dude, I did nothing. I am innocent. I did nothing. But yeah, absolutely. It was just
Right.
it really feels like he was radicalized online the same way that terrorists are. He was believing in some conspiracy theories, and then he went to a couple rallies where race realists were, a couple of the big ones on the East Coast, and now he's he's full in.
Wow.
So it's a weird thing.
Well, man, we were talking about it. We were talking about it a little bit before the show. You know, I don't have a problem with this sort of, you know, naming and shaming that's going on with these people. I think it's good that people's coworkers know who they're working with, that people know who their neighbors are. But Brendan had an interesting point about, you know, how the free market handles this. That, I mean, there's no, obviously we've got, you know, First Amendment, you know, super protections for free speech in this country. So basically the last recourse is for the market to decide, for companies or campuses to decide that, like, we just don't want to be associated with this ideology.
Well, and the thing is, campuses have always had that power just within the school's code of conduct. It's so easy to be able to just say, dude, that's outside the purview of the code of conduct here. And, you know, that's the contract you sign up for pretty much.
Yeah, and I think it is funny that these people who espouse these right-wing values of the free market, of the ultimate expression of capitalism, of, you know, hey, if it's profitable or whatever, you know, go for it. Doesn't matter. The ethics.
A lot of libertarian,
to then flip around
ANCAP philosophy going on with that crowd.
Oh, absolutely. And then you flip it around, and they also want the right for businesses to be able to not serve gays or not serve blacks or not serve Jews or Muslims or whatever, to say,
or
like, we're a whites only
business,
you know,
the flag immediately when they walk in the building. Yeah.
But then if you flip it around and say, like, well, we're a no Nazis business, like, that's what our, you know, business says, so sorry, bye, they're like, hey, this is unfair, you know. This is mean.
ACLU, you know.
But I mean, you get all these people out there saying, like, well, let's just punch Nazis in the face, and a lot of people are like, hey, that's too far. And then you're like, okay, well, let's just tell everybody that they're Nazis, and maybe they won't want to hang out with them anymore.
Right.
And they're like, well, that's too far too. Like, you guys are being so mean.
everything is too far for them, because they want absolute protection of speech without consequences for them. They're more than happy to go after, you know, like, I would take a single one of these. I would take that Google guy more seriously, talking about, you know, like, fired for truth, if he also was out there standing up for Colin Kaepernick, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Or for women to, like, get a scholarship to a coding program at a university or something. But he's like, nah, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
You know?
Their brains just won't develop into the right fit, for what I know.
No, but my point is that, you know, they're happy to defend other people's rights of free expression and free association until it reflects on them negatively. And they always take the wrong lesson from it. It's like, see, I'm right about society. Society is, like, bigoted against conservatives, instead of going, like, well, I mean, society is bigoted against people who are bigots, you know?
Right. It's only wrong when it goes against people you like. But when it goes against people you don't like, it's completely
that's justified. Just the free market at work. You know, Kaepernick can't get a job because, you know, the fans complained or whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, now on the Browns, they just had the first white guy kneel down.
It was like half the offense or so. I mean, it was like 12 people kneeled, and including the first white guy.
Right. Let's not forget, a white guy did it now.
Thank
like,
you.
I think
White
it's time.
People, thank you.
I think maybe it's time we reevaluate this. I don't know what's changed, but maybe we need to take a second look. At this whole kneeling situation. Maybe it's not so bad.
Right. Although if I was Colin, I'd already be in the Canadian Football League right now, just dominating, just shredding it up.
Oh, absolutely.
Smoking some weed in Vancouver, you know, that's the way to go. But
I mean, it is pretty ridiculous. I mean, you look at some of the quarterbacks out there, you know, it doesn't seem like he's like, well, he's just not good enough.
Right.
Like, he did okay. I mean, he didn't win the Super Bowl, but I mean, he wasn't the worst team.
Every team has, what, 3 or 4 quarterbacks on the team?
Right.
I mean, he's got to be good enough to be within that amount of people. There's like
to
90
be a backup
quarterbacks.
or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. No, it's totally political. But you've got, in full circle, I mean, Jim Brown, a civil rights legend that played for the Cleveland Browns, you know, on Twitter saying, Colin, you know, there's owners to consult before you go out and do this kind of stuff. And it's like, dude, what?
Yeah, right.
Wait
because,
a second, dude.
Like, super rich
this guy
white
a
guys
CTE
who have a
scan.
track record of being incredibly racist are the best people that you want to be asking about stuff.
Exactly. The ones that are your owners as you see them, you know. It's like,
right.
Dude, no one owns
Right.
people.
Well,
they give him a paycheck.
Right.
That's all.
I mean, and at the same time, you've got Tim Tebow, who's kneeling, and then being like, buy my signed Bibles online or whatever.
Right.
And they're just throwing him into sports left and right. They just can't get enough of him out there.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what sport it is.
It really just, it depends. The way you feel about something just depends on who it's being applied to. And that's what it's sad. We don't have a complete
and
set
that's
of
what makes
baseline
it
standards.
especially frustrating that these guys are they're the warriors for like logic and reason. They've got a conversational stranglehold on those terms. Like everything that I say is just super logical, and I don't know why you're denying science. But the thing about science is that it tries to be internally consistent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think speaking of consistency, I mean, probably what's going to happen now is that they're going to turn around and try to say like, oh, well, we'll just do it to Antifa people or whatever, people that we see out there protesting.
Oh, for sure.
Then we're going to just tell on them, and try to get them fired by doing a Twitter campaign or whatever.
Right.
And I guess it just kind of makes me wonder, I mean, kind of what you were saying before, Chuck, is, I understand like they certainly have the right to fire this dude, but like, what are you really accomplishing by like ruining this dude's life other than driving him further into like isolation and radicalization? It's like, it's so sad that you have to be like, well, let's get out there and find a job for some Nazis, to help them out.
Right.
The Nazis are sad out there,
Exactly. Start a telethon or something.
Well, and what's been fun is watching these guys kind of talk themselves into a pretty lefty philosophy of the importance of like workers unions, because if you think that this is a workplace abuse, if you think that employers and the people who hold all of the capital and therefore the power in your company are abusing their privileges, then that's when you unionize and you build in stronger speech protections for employees. But they wouldn't go so far as to say, we need a union.
Right.
Although that would be hilarious. I would love to see a right wing.
Right.
I'd love to see like ANCAPs unionized. That would be just the best thing.
Yeah. I mean, in Europe they have parties like that where they're kind of like, white nationalist socialist, you know what I mean? Saying like, we should have a bunch of government services and stuff, but maybe only for white people. Mm-hmm. So I think there could very well be, a strong faction of these dudes who start getting into some more of that stuff, because that's the stuff you don't want to go out there and say, hey, we're Nazis and we want to, kill Jews and black people. But if you go out there and say like, hey, we're Nazis and we want more healthcare, people be like, interesting.
Well, it's funny because I mean, the fascists are kind of like the tech
choice.
bros, because they're so we're watching in real time them kind of slowly reinventing a bunch of stuff that's good. So with the tech bros, it's like they like people wanted more flavors of Soylent, so they added a whole bunch of flavors of Soylent, and it's like, congratulations, dudes, you just reinvented food. Like, people don't want to eat the same thing all the time,
Right.
And
it's like, Soylent's great. You know what people like carrots.
Caps eventually always come back around to like, we need social protections. Like, corporations shouldn't be able to, like dump pollution in my backyard or deny people services based on their political expression. And it's like, congratulations, you just invented, social democracy.
Right.
The fact that there's a lot of overlap between tech
twins
bros
of
and
fascism,
sort of, like ANCAP philosophy shouldn't be a massive surprise, actually.
Well, the guy that got outed at UNO is a tech bro. He's going for MIS, Management Information Systems.
Right.
So he's totally on the tech campus, and this dude also believes that Nebraska and the Midwest should secede from the nation. So
the Midwest, that would go over great.
Exactly. We're just
maybe
take
Texas
the middle
can pull
part.
it off.
Right. We have very little ocean access, and it's going to make it impossible to move goods from one place to another. But yeah, that seems rational.
Well, but more border jobs,
and it's crazy. I mean, you hear crazy stuff like how the Russian troll army wants to pretend that California is gonna secede from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like that actually could be economically viable as an independent state. The Midwest, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not
it'd be
so
an
much.
Agricultural powerhouse, but I mean, not if they keep voting against climate change
Right.
legislation and they
And,
lose
like,
all their good growing seasons.
At least California has like a coast. Like if you're Nebraska and you're like, we're going to secede from the United States, it's like, well, that's your literally only border partner. So good,
Yeah,
good luck with
overnight
that.
we're
Right.
surrounded by the enemy. Like that was an excellent
Yep.
tactical move.
Can you imagine though Trump
Time to
just,
go to
like,
war with the Dakotas.
doing like trade wars with California or invading California and stuff, having boundary disputes?
Well, they've got
So-
what is it? MK13, MS13? I can't remember.
MS-13.
Yeah, they've got MS13 down
Mortal
there,
Kombat
so-
13, though. That's good.
NKOTB, New Kids on the Block 13.
Well, hey, before we wrap up this segment and take a break, I did want to mention a couple of interesting good news items that are also from our neck of the woods. So, the Texas legislature, the Republican-run legislature, has not been having the best past like 6 weeks. They've had their voter ID law overturned for the 5th time in federal court, and have
5 record breaking.
Yeah, that's right. No, we, go big or go home in Texas.
That's right.
And they also just had a poor review of the way congressional districts are drawn in Texas, in particular the ones that cover Austin and San Antonio. And it's, the deputy governor of Texas said, we politely decline the request of the court to redraw this, and we'll be taking it up in court. We'll be taking it to the appeals. And I mean, I love that. I love that wording. Like, no, dude, you guys just got smacked down in the courts. You don't get to just say like, that's an interesting suggestion that we stop disenfranchising Black and Hispanic voters. But we're just gonna, politely, like we're at a dinner party that I'm leaving soon or something. That's great.
Well, I think they're just using that. They're using that Arpaio strategy that Trump has is popularized here by like, hey, no matter how racist your contempt of court is, like maybe you'll just get one of them
Right.
pardons. So you might as well give it a shot.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Yeah, so the gerrymandering case is still in the works. Everyone's preparing their appeals briefs. The voter ID law is probably going to get appealed to the Fifth Circuit, which is in New Orleans and historically isn't great for progressive causes. But even they agreed in the past couple of years that the way Texas draws its congressional districts is super racist and it needs to change. Interesting note for friends of the show, one of the districts in this case involves a guy that we've spoken about before, who's Blake Farenthold, the Texas congressman who challenged a bunch of women to a duel.
It's a duel.
Yeah, over the healthcare
Yeah,
debate.
it was more of a threat than a challenge. But
Yeah.
yeah, you may also remember him from his greatest hit where Shelley Moore Capito, the Republican senator, was caught on a hot mic saying like, after because he challenged her to the duel or
Right.
whatever, he threatened to shoot her. And she was like, this guy's insane. I don't mean to be rude, but he's just like a repulsive human being to look at.
Yeah.
And he really is.
Yeah.
He is a horrific cartoon character of a man.
Well, because that picture was circulating. That picture was circulating of
in the
him
onesie.
with like a Playboy bunny or something. And
Yeah,
he's
like
at
a-
a pajama party and wearing like
yeah,
adult
he's an actual
pajamas.
pajama boy. And Chuck, I'm so glad that you took us in this direction, because my new favorite fact about Blake Farenthold is something that I found. I was looking up a little background on him for this episode and found a Wired piece that came out about a month ago where it was, we found Blake Farenthold's old like BBS like bulletin board, early internet comments.
Yeah.
And one of them, he's talking about being at a Jimmy Buffett concert, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to party in the parking lot for a couple hours before the show. And then later commented, I liked the one that I went to in Austin better than the one in, I think he's in San Antonio or maybe Dallas. And he's like, because there were more women like flashing their tits at that one. Oh, that's great. That's just wonderful
Wow.
to know about our elected rep here.
Right. Well, and another thing that this dude was, this dude is a sitting congressman from Corpus Christi, Texas right now.
Right.
when Trump's grab him by the pussy tape came out, he was interviewed. And he was like, I'm not going to, I'm still going to support Trump.
Oh,
here.
yeah. He was
and they were like, really?
They asked him, is this enough for you to...
What would it take?
Yeah. And he was like, well, I need to wait until all the facts are... I wouldn't want to jump to conclusions. That seems like it'd be bad, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. And then later had to issue a written apology for not immediately saying, like, no, sexual assault is bad.
Right.
Right.
Well, you could, just read my message board post. I think I made that very clear at the Jimmy Buffett concert,
Right.
you guys.
Right.
Yeah, so Blake Farenthold, we know you're a listener. Come on the show. We'd love to talk to you. I think it'll be a lot of fun for you.
Absolutely.
I mean, what do you think the chances are of flipping this guy out in Corpus Christi? I mean, I know that this next election in 2018 is not going to be great for Republicans, but you got seats like this guy, choke slam guy,
Right.
Whoever they have up there. It's like,
and that's the
they
importance
almost can't
of this,
lose it.
Gerrymandering case. If the court can order, basically where we are in the procedural posture is the districts have been declared unconstitutional, but the court has not issued anything in terms of suggested relief, which may just be a recommendation for how to redraw the districts. And at that point, it's possible that we end up with districts that you could actually get this guy out because he's terrible. Right.
Well, and it's indefensible at this point to continue to have the districts drawn by partisan committees.
Absolutely.
When there are people who are like, I built a like district drawing app that is just like can perfectly, do anything you throw at it in like 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. And like, I'll just give it to you for free. You don't have to pay a commission, hundreds of thousands of dollars, like just plug the geographical data into this app and it does it for you.
Well, but the thing is, people in Texas are, the ruling party in Texas is terrified of that because they know that the majority of the state is actually, basically like poor college educated white people, black people, and brown people of like a million different nationalities. Right. And that group tends to go for the Democrats. So, it's an existential threat for them. Right.
Well, and I mean, if you let this system go on, and not without fixing these issues, you could have, a country so crazy that like 4 out of the last 5 presidential elections, would go to the person who won less votes because of the Electoral College.
Right.
That would just be crazy.
Yeah, sure.
But Trump is in charge of the census. The next census is in 2020, and that's when they redraw the districts again and reallocate the House of Representatives. So
he's literally going to advocate for like a check mark on there that's like, am I an undocumented Hillary voter? He just wants to know. He wants to see if people are going to like self-report on that.
Right.
When you check the box, it just clamps on your arm like a bear trap. The clipboard just comes out. It's a great system.
Flawless victory.
Yeah. Somehow the Supreme Court that he packed full of his picks said that was fine. Sure. So I don't know.
There we go.
Well, man, should we take a little break here because I think we have a pretty cool high note this week. I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Oh, yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. No. She's the one who challenged me to do it.
I know. Trust me. You know why I challenged you to do? Because you could beat the shit out of him.
So, high notes this week? Sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Come on.
So, we always got to bring it out on a high note. And,
that's right.
There's so many, so we might do a couple. We might do a little bit of an extra stuffed show full of high goodness right now. So one of the things that, I'm not sure if it's a high note, so help me work through it, guys. All of these resignation letters from all these different councils, I saw a headline recently, 69 people have now quit Trump's different advisory groups. Wink. And when they quit, they write these letters saying like, hey, we are all resigning, mass resignation, because we can't stand that, Trump is, refusing to explicitly condemn racism or whatever. But they spell out, so every line will spell out, like, if you read it down the row, it'll be like resist.
Yeah, they're doing these acrostic poems with
impeach.
Yeah, I think Resist was the Arts and Humanities board.
Yeah.
And then there was another one just this past week, I think.
Right. Well, it's almost like they feel like this is all going to be in the history books, and it's going to be like, the people resisted through poetry to the president.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's what
they'll have this letter in the Smithsonian or whatever with like little highlighted lines.
It highlights impeached down the side for who was that guy who just resigned?
Yeah. And look at this splendid use of emojis.
But yeah, I think one of the craziest things was on that Arts and Humanities Council, Melania Trump is like the official head of the council.
Right, yeah, like the honorary chairwoman.
Right. And so like her name is like on the official like resignation letterhead or whatever. Like Melania Trump presents a secret hidden, high school poem.
But I mean, do you think that Melania Trump even knew she was on that board, or was that just a thing they stuck her on and
Yeah, I mean, probably not. I mean, I don't even think... I mean, do you think that she even knew when Trump was running and when they won the election that she had, like, an official, like, government-mandated job with, like, a salary and commissions and a staff that she has to manage?
She's like, I didn't interview for that, like, I didn't realize that I got the job.
And she was like, what, I have to move? I have to move my house? Like, what are you talking about?
Right. She's like, what are the benefits?
Yeah, you mean I actually have to live near him?
Yeah. Oh, I feel bad for her, I mean, again, it's like, you don't want to feel bad for these people because they knew what they were getting into, but it's like, it is almost a tragedy for everybody who's not Trump.
What was the board that she was on?
That was like the Arts and Humanities Council, but I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that she's supposed to be doing. She's supposed to be in charge of tours, White House tours.
They should have spelled out divorce on the side.
Well, but there was this epic subtweet with her about when they asked her what are you going to tackle as first lady, and she immediately said, I think online bullying and just being terrible to people is a good project for the first lady.
Yeah, it's just gotten out of hand. I mean, that was like had to be like her secret coded message to be like, maybe if I say this out loud, Trump will finally re-examine his life. But again, it's like she knows he's not going to do that.
Right.
Right. Well, what if she uses this as her platform to collect evidence over his administration, like the duration of it, and it's just like, look at all these times you did online bullying. You're gonna make me look bad. You're fired as my husband. I divorce you.
She's working with Robert Mueller on like a co-investigation of all the online bullying.
Dude.
She's like, when I said that I was gonna investigate, like I was serious. Like, this needs to stop.
Oh man. She gets the Nobel Prize for that shit.
Nobel Peace Prize.
Like, no first lady has ever got to those lengths to achieve their mission.
Well, Chuck, you had a pretty uplifting story, I think.
Yeah, well, they're talking about bringing the jobs back, and in a state like Nebraska, it seems kind of hard because a lot of the big jobs have been leaving or looking to leave, or partnering up with other groups. But
like young people leave all the time. Anybody who gets an education is like, I think I'd rather be living in a place that's not Nebraska.
But we're in the running to bring those manufacturing jobs back.
All right.
Yeah, Omaha World Herald just had an article saying that Nebraska and Iowa are in the running for a $1.6 billion Toyota Mazda plant that would be assembling electric cars. So
nice.
Yeah. So yeah, jobs are coming back. Seems kind of cool. Possibly. We'll see.
I mean,
we're finalists.
The modern manufacturing jobs are not really the same as like the old Detroit
for sure.
style. I mean, it's like there's so many like robots and things like that involved now that it's kind of a very different job where you're more like supply chain management and stuff like that.
But they're saying it's 4,000 employees, so, that's 4,000 jobs and however many robots. But,
no, that's a good deal. I would still show up to that job dressed like Rosie the Riveter every single day. Mostly just because grease. Coveralls and a do-rag are a comfortable uniform,
Yeah, was she wearing a tank top, though? Like an A
work
shirt.
inappropriate. Yeah,
You know.
no visible tattoos, please.
So yeah, we'll see how that goes. We'll see if Pete Ricketts is able to close the deal on that and make it enticing,
Right.
By
Exactly.
giving away all taxes.
Yeah,
or
I'm
whatever.
sure they'll pull a Foxconn or whatever and
Right.
be like 4,000 jobs. How about $4 billion in tax incentives?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
It's like, wait a minute, you're kind of canceling out
It
the
takes like
benefits
50
here.
years to like pay off the difference.
Yeah, and the
Exactly.
people who work at the plant absolutely don't see a positive impact in their lives. Like we're making more money, but all of it goes to pay for my employer, which I thought was what I was doing when I was at work anyway.
Matt, we need to go on to your high note because we're just making this less high.
Oh,
we're
we went too
this,
far.
We're bringing this.
All right,
good
fair
news
enough.
down.
No, I think potentially green jobs in Nebraska. That's a good step forward. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I do have a high note, and my high note was to congratulate you two on the 50th episode of Liquid Flannel, and to thank you for bringing me on first as a guest and then making me a co-host, because this has been one of the best projects I've ever worked on. And man, watching the show develop over the past 6 months that we've been doing it has been really cool.
Yeah, man, it's almost a year. I appreciate it.
Well, for us, I mean,
Yeah.
let's remind everyone, Matt wasn't there, okay? This is all me and you, Chuck.
I was
That's
gonna
right.
say-
No glory.
Well, we're the remaining brains from the pre-Trump Liquid Flannel era. So,
It was
what-
definitely a
what-
dividing line.
I was gonna say, yeah, when Trump was elected, we're like, we need reinforcements.
Right.
So,
Far in the far-flung future, they'll be doing archaeological digs, and you'll just be able to see, like, oh yeah, here's the line right here.
Yeah.
You could see there was just a lot of styrofoam and like old red hats,
Nuclear
just
isotopes.
piled up.
Yeah.
some,
Right.
some fissionable material scattered throughout. It's very identifiable layer when you're looking through it.
yeah, it's made the first 50 episodes interesting. That's for sure. So,
Well, and I think the show has changed a lot too. We've been really good about getting cool guests on, and I think we have
that's right.
a lot more, just really interesting people from various walks of life coming on already. And I think as we grow, we're going to be able to, keep bringing our listeners cool people whose points of view they want to hear.
And cool ideas. I mean, ideas for different types of episodes and things like that. I think that the creativity is just growing. Let's just say that.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? I want to put the call out there that, if there's people out there listening who've been listening for a while and you have an idea of something that you think would be cool to talk about, or even if you want to be on the show,
Yeah, for sure.
Reach out, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter at liquid_flannel. Hit us up on our email at liquidflannelshow@gmail.com.
Yeah,
We love the fam.
I have no shame, drunkenly hitting people up on Twitter and saying, "Hey, we've got the show. You should come on it." That you'd be amazed at how often that works.
If you ever want to get drunk and you need someone to talk to on Twitter, Matt the Great is the guy to do it.
So yeah, I've got a little. We had some calls over the past week, and I want to play this reel for you guys real quick. These are all of our former guests who all had something to say about our 50th episode.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Hey guys, it's Danielle O'Farrell coming to you from New York City. Congratulations on 50 episodes. I understand that 50 is traditionally the gold anniversary, so...
Welcome to Solid Gold, now in stereo.
Hey guys, this is Qasim Rashid. I'm an attorney out of DC calling in to say congrats on your 50th episode. That's awesome. You guys are doing great work, and I'm looking forward to the next 50.
This is Alexis Biddle from Portland, Oregon. You guys have been killing it in your first 50 episodes, and I look forward to hearing all the future guests and interesting topics that you guys cover with your class, intelligence, raw humor, and overall good journalism. Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, this is Cooper Brinson from the Civil Liberties Defense Center. Great to hear that Liquid Flannel is hitting 50 shows. Here's to many, many more.
Hey, this is Peter Coffin. I have a YouTube channel, good for me. I just want to congratulate you guys at Liquid Flannel on your 50th show. That's a big accomplishment, isn't it? And you better not stop, because if you stop, I'll find you. Quick note, that is not a credible threat.
Congratulations on 50, and here's to 50 more. This is Apollonia Geckner. I want to wish the folks over at Liquid Flannel a happy 50th episode. Y'all are doing an incredible job, and I look forward to many more.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed now. It's like when people come and sing happy birthday to you in the restaurant and stuff, you know.
Well, we also did get this other one that I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this. That it came through my email, but it was like the date stamp was all messed up. I thought it was spam at first because the file looked like corrupted. But I'm gonna go ahead and play it because the one guest that we didn't hear from, it looked like this might have something to do with him.
Hello. Hello. Are we transmitting? Are we getting any kind of signal? Bob, how can we tell if this damn thing is even working? Well, I'll just give it a shot. I just hope they're out there. Somewhere. Hello, Liquid Flannel. Are you listening? This is Patrick Ross from Kansas. I hope you can hear me. I wanted to send congratulations on your 100th podcast. I'm sure none of us believe we'd make it this far. Thank God you've been able to keep the podcast coming from your secret bunker as the legacy of the Trump presidency continues on. Hard to believe he's gone. I mean, most of us didn't expect him to last for 4 years, but nobody thought he'd go out like that. I guess Melania couldn't stand him any more than we could. Of course, now we're stuck with President Pence and the God Squad. Oh, excuse that background noise. It's been a little chaotic since the frack quake leveled the college a couple of months ago. It has been hard to teach classes in all this rubble, but at least we're no longer getting regular visits from Pence's culture cops. Hard to run a biology class when the threat of castration is looming over your head for teaching evolution. Well, enough about my problems. I just wanted to say congratulations to Brendan and Chuck for keeping the podcast a shining light of rationality in all this darkness. Such a shame about Matt, poor dumb bastard. Can't believe he thought he'd stop Trump from hollowing out the last remaining redwoods and turning them into condos by chaining himself to those trees. That brave, beautiful idiot. I miss him. I hope he still recognizes us when he gets out of the ban and re-education camps. Oh, looks like we're getting some interference here. I think we're going to lose the signal. I'm going to sign out. So, Liquid Flannel, keep them coming. Keep broadcasting. Keep spreading the word. Keep hope alive.
That was futuristic.
Oh my God, that was amazing. That was amazing. And thank you to everybody. It was really cool to hear.
Well, I'm glad you didn't die either, because you're right here.
Well, you know, stay tuned to when episode 100 rolls around and see.
Yeah, we have a year to fulfill this prophecy.
Yeah, I'm feeling really uncomfortable about that message.
Do you think should we lean into it or should we try to fight our destiny? Matt, I think you should lean into it. Go for it, dude.
I mean, it all depends on whether you think that open or closed time loops are a thing, and I like Back to the Future, but Primer makes more sense logically.
Well, and there's
in the Trump world, every door is a revolving one.
Well, we got that Game of Thrones going on, and there's a little bit of a little time travel-y twist in there. Spoilers for like 3 seasons ago on Game of Thrones or whatever.
Oh man,
but
I was about to watch that.
We wanted to make Chuck watch. He's never watched Game of Thrones.
Nope.
You've never seen any of it.
Not a single minute of any season. No.
So we wanted to make Chuck watch the season finale coming up here.
Without knowing anything about any episode.
And, we'll have him give us his review.
Yeah, I think we absolutely
how we
should
think
do
it
that.
was.
That'd be awesome, yeah.
Yeah. If you want to hear that episode, hit us up on Twitter and we'll make it happen.
Yeah. As well as any other episode, and we'll see about it.
Yeah.
So,
and I think as we go along, we're going to continue to, bring you good shows, and, there's all sorts of bonus audio that never really gets released, but we'd like to work out a way to get that to you as well. In this next 50 episodes, maybe we'll be looking at, people want to throw us a couple of bucks because they like the show, then we can get them extra content for that.
Yeah. We often do like a pre-show discussion that is maybe sometimes a little bit more freewheeling.
Yeah.
Not as thought through and planned out. And yeah, it'd be cool to get some of that stuff out there. I think people might enjoy it if they like the regular show.
Oh yeah, that's right. And I don't think our episode 1 is out there anymore on SoundCloud, but I was thinking it'd be kind of funny to maybe one day, if we got big, just press it on vinyl and put it out there for the true fans.
I hope I still have that file. I don't know.
I have it.
Need to do some digital archaeology here.
I've got it on a thumb drive.
Nice.
So yeah,
make sure you back that up. We don't want to lose that
in
the bunker apocalypse.
I'll put
that's
it in a
be
safety deposit box.
Precious.
At a credit union, not a big bank, because they will use it to invest in derivatives. But yeah.
So yeah, thanks guys. Congratulations on 50 episodes. It's a big deal.
Thank you. It's been great. It's really been fun, and the time's really flown. So I can't wait to see what 50 more brings. So, and we wouldn't be doing any of this without you, the listeners. So we thank you for tuning in every week and joining us and sharing the message and hitting us up on all the social media. So it's great.
Yeah. So yeah, hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on Twitter at liquid_flannel. Just start Googling Liquid Flannel. You'll find the stuff. It does a great job at finding
YouTube,
things.
Facebook, all of it. So, liquid_flannel at Twitter. And you can find me at Shaggy2Trope. Brendan, where can they find you?
I'm at Brendan Williams with 1 L.
And Matt, where are you at?
I'm at Matt the Gwait with a W.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. Happy 50th, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
50! That's crazy, man.
50 nifty. Getting shifty. Well, and speaking of crazy, there's some weather going on down in the South, and in the South, that's where our buddy Matt, the great Matthew Hodges, is located. Okay, one more
no
take.
Our Dixieland correspondent.
Our Dixie. Okay.